And at this time, we have a presentation. Arizona Department of Transportation Northwest District Engineer Alvin Stump will brief us on the ongoing ADOT State Route 95 Access Management Study for a segment of SR 95 from Aviation Way to Teller Lane in Bullhead City and Fort Mojave.
All right, well, good morning, Madam Chair and Board. Thanks for having me. We are going to be starting the public comment period here in September and October for both this study as well as our safety projects there at Aztec. So just wanted to give you all a short briefing on it. As far as the long-term strategy for 95, we kind of see two parts to it. One is looking at improving access management along 95. The other part is looking at a parallel corridor, basically the vendor slice alignment that y'all did the DCR 10 years ago, I think, which I think we all recognize the need for that parallel corridor. One of the things my office did in this last spring was apply for a study to look at breaking down the project, which was a little over 40 million, into smaller, maybe more affordable projects so we could do it in pieces, like, for example, Camp Mojave to the Parkway, just to start to relieve traffic rather than having to wait for 15 or 20 years to get the entire project funded. Start small and work our way there. So unfortunately, we were not selected this time, but we're going to submit again, and we'll keep working with your staff as well as the city staff on strategies there. As far as the study itself, again, it's about 20 miles between Teller and Aviation Way. Depending on where you're at, you're between 25,000, 40,000 vehicles a day. As far as the crash history, about 2,300 accidents, 16 of them were fatalities, 79 were incapacitating injuries, and 798 total injuries. A lot of the accidents were rear end and left turn, as well as side swipe. 35.4% were resulted in death or injury. As far as behavior, 120 of the crashes involved alcohol, 20 drugs. Distracted driving was about 26.8%, or 465 were cited for rear end crashes, and 59 were cited for side swipe crashes. So, obviously a issue there. I know it's might be hard to read out there, but breaking it down just a little bit further, there were 32 head-on crashes resulting in 5 fatalities and 1 incapacitating injury. 573 left turn or angle crashes resulting in 8 fatalities, 32 incapacitating injuries, 86 non-incapacitating. Rear end crashes, 1,177, 22 incapacitating injuries. I also broke down the between distracted and DUI just to see the comparison. On the rear end crashes, you could see the large number of distracted drivers in those. Another keynote, when Federal Highways is looking at benefit cost ratio of safety improvements, they will look at basically assign a dollar value for fatalities and incapacitating injuries. And those numbers are 5.8 million for fatality crashes, 400,000 for incapacitating injury crashes. So if we take those numbers and apply those dollar amounts, there's an economic impact of about a little over 124 million on there. So where we're at right now is we've been looking at the accident data, evaluating potential solutions. This is a high-level study. When you get into access management, it really gets local in resolving the detailed issues in each area. But we are going to, for this study, focus on the north and south ends. Those are where a lot of the serious crashes are, and areas that we can resolve some of the access issues relatively well. Our plan is have stakeholder business meetings in September, and then have we're working on scheduling our public meetings in the October timeframe. Little quick update on the Corwin Signal. We've been working with the city on this. A long time ago, it was planned to be at Sterling. When it got moved back to Corwin, there was breakdown in the funding, and so we've been working back and forth, but I think where we're at now is we're looking at a joint project that the city would construct a signal there under encroachment permit, and then I would apply for minor project funding for right turn lane at Marina going southbound, another project that's needed, and that kind of evens out our horse trading there. So told we should have a draft agreement here either this week or next week, so should be able to get that moving along. The city has a design for that intersection, so looking forward to that. So as far as possible improvements under evaluation, one thing not included is looking at upgrading our signal technology. That's something our traffic folks are going to be working on. I don't have a timeline yet, but 95 is targeted for that. But as far as our study, looking at raised medians to reduce the left turn and head-on crashes, looking at continuous T intersections at mid-block accesses to help with left turn movements. Roundabouts have been identified to reduce congestion and improve safety. And another thing, the city of Bullhead had asked for an updated speed study through the area. That's something we will do. We'll let the study run its course. I think there is maybe a possibility between Rancho Colorado and Marina where it might support dropping it to 35. I think outside of that, probably remain as is, but we'll see what the study says. Raised sitter medians we see is important. Depending on what study you look at, you'll see a 25 to 40% reduction in accidents, and creates the traffic calming effect, which helps to slow traffic down as well. But personally, I wish we never started building continuous two-way left turn lanes. When they're first built and there's low traffic volumes, not such a big issue, but basically more traffic leads to fewer available gaps, which leads to impatient drivers, which results in poor decisions and ultimately accidents. And so that's kind of where we're at. And depending on where we're at on the corridor, the severity of those accidents may differ, but there's a lot of them. So that's the key reason looking at the raised median to help there. We recognize that we still have to make that work for businesses, and one tool is what's called a continuous green T intersection or Florida T intersection, which is basically a partially signalized three-legged intersection where basically the side with the cross leg would be signalized, but the other side would be allowed to continue onward. So this is an opportunity where I think we can improve the safety of left turns and minimize the impact to the flow of traffic. This is an example of one unsignalized. Given the traffic volumes, I'd prefer to have them signalized, but you know, that's something for consideration too. You know, obviously, everybody's favorite roundabouts, they have their safety benefits. They've been shown to significantly reduce the fatalities and serious injuries and improve capacity as well. And they also solve a few other problems from time to time as well. So, next steps, we're in the process of scheduling the meetings for basically the public meetings and the business stakeholder meetings for the Aztec Roundabout and Raised Median project, as well as the excess management study. And so this is the time for public input. We work with the businesses on kind of hammering out the details on doing the accesses, but you know, as far as the input on the project itself from the public, we understand resistance to roundabouts. We are open to listening to all other solutions, but I do want to remind everybody that we are looking at public safety here. That's at the forefront, but we're willing to have those discussions. But tentatively, we're looking at third or fourth week in September for the business stakeholder meetings, probably the third week, and then the public meetings, which we're envisioning probably having two, probably around the second week of October. As far as implementation, we're, again, these types of projects are small sub-programming funding, usually $1 to $4 million, but it's whether it's the safety funds or the minor project funds. Right now in 19, there's Aztec and the Raised Median project. In fiscal year 20, there's the Camp Mojave and the Raised Median to Valencia. Basically, the Raised Median is funded by minor project funding. The intersections are funded by safety funds. And lastly, with this study, we're going to be looking at submitting additional safety projects this fall. One candidate will be Aviation Way to 7th Street. The reason there's been 3 fatalities in that stretch, and we're still looking at the south end, but you know, taking a preliminary view, there's a few head-ons that might cause us to look at another median project on the south end as well. And you know, if in a nutshell, doing these projects are going to significantly reduce those number of fatalities and the serious accidents. So that's really what we're looking at. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions for y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Stump. Any questions from the board? Supervisor Bishop?
None, thank you.
No.
Supervisor Watson?
No, thank you.
Supervisor Johnson?
No, thank you.
Okay, well, I want to thank you very much for coming. This is my district. I want to thank you for working with Bullhead City on the Corwin light, much needed. You know, we have a lot of questions, and there's a lot of community angst about these roundabouts. And I'm very happy we're going to be having public comment. We have committees already ready to go with petitions because there's a lot of people who do not want this. We've talked about this, and we know, but I think the time is going to be in September and October, and I want everyone out there in my district to know that we will let you guys know, give you ample time and opportunity to get your thoughts and your groups together. We do need other bypass roads. I like that you're looking into Vanderslice, but there's also some other opportunities, maybe Mountain View, and we'll talk about that. And I want to ask you a question. In your studies, in your safety studies, communities that have passed anti-texting laws, what happens? Do you see a sizable difference when that happens?
That's a good question. I really have not seen the data, and that's something to look at to see if it's been effective. My gut feeling is I question how much it's going to. I think you almost got to somehow make that not an option for people to not do that, because it's like we talk about speeding. No matter what you post the speed at, some people just decide to drive what they want to drive, and I think.
So you don't think that the anti-texting, no texting laws really help safety?
I don't know. That's what I want to. I need to look at the data, because now
I'd like to actually know that, because here in Mojave County, we're surrounded by communities that have no texting, and then, you're driving along and you're texting, then you go to Kingman, you go to Laughlin, you go to Needles, you can't text, and so we're surrounded by those communities, so I'm sure there's some data somewhere that.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do some research and see what I can find for you.
Thank you very much. So again, we'll look forward to these public hearings, and that will be in Bullhead City, and we'll